to do the intro? Am I going to be like the only show on the internet that doesn't have a joke but pretends it does to cover his bro?
Oh, yeah, you kind of do that. I mean, I'm still working on getting Bob Bobson to, practice writing jokes. Welcome back to the Not Televised Revolution. I don't mind being crusty, but you will never catch me being slimy. Those are very different textures.
Unless you're on ecstasy, and sometimes you can't tell the difference.
Yeah, but that's called synesthesia.
I know, right? Are we actually recording right now?
I gave you the fucking safe word.
Okay, well, I was just making sure that it wasn't it was flour and not flour.
He's referencing a cartoon. That can only happen to cartoons.
I'm just saying, if our safe word is there, I'm just making sure you didn't say there.
If our safe word is our, then am I supposed to look at the time or the relationship between us?
I don't know. You see?
Right.
It's kind of hard to fuck up a safe word like banana, but it's real easy to fuck up a safe word like flower.
Banana. I need an adult. I think Revolution is on the air.
How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm still really thrilled that this is my first episode with you with my fucking awesome swag on the wall. And, since, we keep it real over here, I figured this would be a good time to let you guys in on some more behind the scenes. I stole this from a bank. This is the result of a bank heist. My giant, amazing corporate letters on the screen. TFC Bank. But wait, there's only one T in TFC Bank. Oh, I see how that works.
For the record, we both know it's TCF. He's just sleep deprived.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you for having my bank. No, I just want it to be TNT Bank.
No, I'm just saying.
Wouldn't that be the shit?
Well, I mean, even TFC.
Did I say?
I mean, there's all kinds of ways to do it. Just saying.
Alright, so it won't be hard to get me to have fun today because I am, like I've been telling him during our prep, delirious from sleep deprivation.
Hey, delirium just makes it fun.
No, it's often the cause of my insomnia. Like, wow, this is fun. I'm gonna keep doing it.
I couldn't even sleep. Yeah, it happens a lot to me, actually. It happens a lot to me.
All right.
Consciousness.
I'm not even sure if my name shows up on this, but we are here and we have been drinking and we've been smoking cigarettes, but we wish we were smoking a slightly better plant. Let's get started, my dude.
Okay, so if I remember right, it's my economic story, right?
Go to your Discord and look at the list. That's why we set it up.
Okay.
We're still kind of new with this, guys. We're still kind of new.
Okay.
I even have it on the screen.
So, my first freaking article's up there on the screen.
Reuters, right? Reuters,
perfect. All right.
Okay.
So, breaking news: the Fed, or the Federal Reserve, cut interest rates by 0.25%, otherwise known as 25 points, today, or Friday. And in response, the markets took a 500-point dive during the middle of Friday. Now, they kind of recovered about 150 points or so, depending, of course, on the sector. After the fact, once our once Powell got on and said, "Oh no, we're not done cutting interest rates. We're going to continue to cut interest rates, but the Fed cut interest rates by 0.25%, and in response, the market, which under the same pressure would typically go into a huge boom, actually dropped by 500 points. If you could go ahead and if you could, we could. You have that article up, right?
Yes, like we are getting better at doing the. We are getting way better at doing the show. I am right there with you.
Yeah, I'm just like
Forex, the dollar index.
New, and it's kind of hard to.
What the heck? Yeah, we have to. I have to do a little bit more research because when you're talking like economics this deep, sometimes like even my eyes glaze over, and I actually give a shit.
So okay, the Federal Reserve cut interest rates. What that means, of course, is that the money that a bank pays to gain a loan from the Federal Reserve, is lower by a half or by a quarter of a percentage point. So what that means is they tend to open up credit, which means that other corporations which means that, generally speaking, particularly over the last decade, when corporations are able to borrow more without much cost, what generally happens is they turn around and they buy their own stocks. Today, they didn't have enough confidence in their own stocks to buy.
Whoa.
Yeah. That's actually kind of a pretty big thing. Now, generally speaking, when the Federal Reserve cuts interest rates in the middle of a strong economy, the stock market tends to soar. But today it dove. Or Friday it dove.
All right, I'm on market reaction now.
Okay, so when the stock market went down 500 points, which overall is really not all that much, but it does show some systemic weaknesses in our economy, which I think that we should probably point to. We are over leveraged, which means that our debt to production ratio is well over 200%. We are way over leveraged, which means we have way too much debt out there. Now, I'm not saying government debt, because actually government debt only really accounts to about 40% of our overall debt. Private debt, however, accounts for 60% of our overall debt and is a lot riskier inherently than any other form of debt. Public debt, we've got public debt as far as the United States is concerned. We've got 7 aircraft carriers, almost $1 trillion a year in military spending. Nobody is going to come and actually try to collect on our debt with guns. That's just never going to happen. It's just, at least, okay, not never, but it's not going to happen anytime in the next half century.
Right, that was really a good way to put it. And I want to just buttress your point by saying that the United States of America has so much firepower that we really are the bully of the world right now, and no one can do anything about it.
And for that reason is why the world can't get enough American debt. They buy it and buy it and buy it and buy it and buy it because overall it's more secure than any other debt. Even if we have negative interest rates, at like 1% or so. So we pull 100% of how much our debt is inherently more secure because the United States isn't going anywhere. Not only do we have a rifle behind every blade of grass, as the Japanese admiral said in the 1940s, but we have the largest military by a factor of 5 in the entire world. Nobody is going to try to take away nobody is going to try to try to collect on those debts using force. It's not going to happen. So
I agree. Sorry, I don't want to sidetrack too much, but I do agree that, of course, we have by far the largest military. But how much does it cost for a hammer in the U.S. military?
It was last I saw, it was like $50,000. That was the last hammer that I saw bought.
Not to sidetrack too far, but isn't that where the Space Force money is going, or something like that? Something crazy like that? We are totally anti-militaristic, and we are anti-imperialist at this channel.
But Independence Day actually kind of pointed to it pretty good. He said the crazy scientist dude in that movie Independence Day said, "Do you guys really believe that we paid $50,000 for a hammer? Do you really think that we paid $10,000 for a toilet seat? That's not what happened. What's going on is that a lot of our D is being taken care of by the military." And I mean, there's good aspects to that, and there's negative ones. The main negative aspect to it is the fact that the state...
It came out of my paycheck, is the main negative aspect. It came out of your paycheck.
I mean, that's one, but I don't necessarily mind R&D coming out of my paycheck. What I
R&D is fine.
Is that our research and development coming out of my paycheck and then not benefiting me. That's where it becomes weird.
Yeah.
Research and development comes out of my paycheck, and then it goes to a Armagnac display, for example, which then launched at $1.2 million each, and that comes out of my paycheck. The R&D comes out of my paycheck, and a teeny tiny little fraction of the population actually benefits from it. That's where it becomes a problem, in my opinion.
Is that teeny tiny percentage of the population the big guy or the little guy?
Well, it isn't you. It ain't me. I can promise you that. I don't know who it is, but I can tell you it isn't me. I can tell you it ain't my next door neighbor.
I can't remember where I got this quote from, but if you know their name, they're not the person in charge.
Say that one more time. My apologies.
If you don't know, if you actually know the name of your enemy, they're actually not the person who is the boss of your enemy, who is the actual enemy. That's a paraphrase.
Yes. Yeah. If I know...
So run it. Take it over.
If I know who it is that's pulling the strings, then of course, then that's the real enemy. I say this a lot to right-wingers. I spend a lot of time hanging out on right-wing websites.
Good.
Saying... We
have to do that. We have to do a whole episode about that.
I know, but, the thing that I say is, in a world that the Atlantic Council can tell a private corporation such as Facebook to silence somebody like Alex Jones,
or you and I,
to silence somebody like Alex Jones, your enemy isn't precisely the government. It's the establishment. It's the government and the corporations. They merge together, which is what we would call fascism. and they do the same thing, which is what we call fascism.
Okay, we're getting a little bit off track, but I guess this is one thing that the far left and far right do have in common. Is like the government is not serving us. And like, how do we not get along at that point already?
Well, we have very different reasons for why the government isn't serving us. Some
True.
people say that instead they're serving other constituents based along identitarian lines, such as brown people from South Africa and so on and so forth. That's kind of where it becomes weird. That's where it kind of becomes weird in the right-wing shit. But generally speaking,
what do you mean where it begins? I said, what do you mean where it begins?
I mean, that's where it begins to get weird. It does, like, because they're right. They're saying the government is our enemy. Well, they're right about that.
Right.
I'm saying that Facebook is our enemy too. I'm saying that Boeing
Absolutely.
is our enemy too. I'm saying that frickin' Google is our enemy too.
Some even say NASA is our enemy, but we're not going to go that far, I don't think.
I would be hard up to say that NASA is necessarily our enemy.
They could be already working on Donald Trump's Space Force for a long time now already, for all we know.
Oh yeah. Donald Trump's Space Force came. Everything that Donald Trump does, and this is why I don't actually like the guy, comes from the military-industrial complex. Period. All across the board. The one exception to this rule, as far as economics is pulling out of that Iran deal. I don't think either the military-industrial complex thought to themselves, well, we can make some more money with some war with Iran, and that would be a good thing. But I don't really think that they thought through all of the consequences of pulling out of that Iran deal.
I guarantee the Boeing and Raytheon, etc., certainly did.
I'm not sure they did.
Really?
Pulling out of the Iran deal has provoked Europe to create a system that can trade between Europe and Iran without the dollar. Which means that the dollar stops becoming the world reserve currency. It stops becoming the currency that they trade.
This is actually the first time I've heard this news.
You haven't heard that?
No, I've taken a guess at it, but I haven't, went and researched it. And of course, we're doing the show and then preparing for the show once again.
At the same time that we're preparing for the show, we're doing the show.
Mm-hmm.
Dale,
send me a link if you can. I'll pull up.
Probably can. Give me a second, but to keep talking, to make sure that the show is live and everything like that. Europe has absolutely started to create a system that is like our SWIFT system. The reason why the dollar is the global reserve currency is because you can take any currency in the world and transfer it to the dollar without any resistance whatsoever.
Yeah.
Now, the reason the euro, and I apologize, I can't draw it off the top of my head. The Iranian currency, however, are starting to create a system between the two, so that the euro can be used to trade oil, or the euro can be used to buy oil from Iran. That is the biggest threat to us having the global reserve currency.
It's good news for the world, but bad news for America, and
it's good for us, but it's good for them, but it ain't good for us.
Yeah, no, and that's why we keep bringing it up every week. Like the economy is, and the world is getting sick and tired of America running the economy. Am I correct?
Yes, absolutely. Because because companies like stability. So
Yeah.
when they start doing trade with a country like Iran, and then they are getting their goods for whatever they're giving in return, then when the United States comes in and says, "Oh, you can't do that anymore," they lose money. So because of the fact that they don't want to lose money, they say, "No, fuck you, US." So European companies are not willing really to deal with our fucking sanctions. We've been seeing that for 8 months now.
So what does Europe do in response?
Sanctions. I'm sorry?
So are you saying Europe doesn't like join us in sanctioning other countries?
They do most of the time. They did when we decided to sanction Russia in 2016.
So are you saying they won't put up with us sanctioning them?
That's really it right there.
Okay.
When we start affecting European interests, well, then we're not willing to listen anymore. Or Europe isn't willing to listen anymore.
Yeah, but they're white, so they're fine.
The Iran deal, that was affecting a lot of European interests.
The Iran deal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Iran does a lot of trade with Europe.
Absolutely. And I mean, they trade a lot of oil with Europe in specific.
Okay.
They also trade a lot of oil with China, which will lead us really well into the next story. However, I do really think that you should bring up those two charts that I brought up.
Okay, I thought we had the order set out. Is there anything that you want to highlight from the first article you had?
Yeah, probably, but
okay.
Let me see. Market reaction. Let's put this. Stocks of the S&P 500 was off by 1%. Bonds, the 10-year U.S. Treasury, rising above 2.6% and then turning down to just over 2% in the 2-year yield. That's those two things are pretty seismic. Only because the Treasury bonds deal with your dollar, with the value of the dollar that's in your pocket.
How do we understand what these numbers mean? And pretend I'm a dummy, because that's kind of my job.
That's actually exactly what I was explaining. As your Treasury bonds percentage goes down, the value of the dollar in your pocket goes down.
Okay.
Because U.S. currency is based on debt. So that means, and bonds are an expression of debt. I loan the government money by buying a bond, and then the government uses it, does whatever it is, and then it gives me returns based on this percentage. If the bond percentage goes down, then that means that the value of your currency goes down.
So basically, the way I understand it, and please, of course, correct me if I'm wrong, is that like when you buy a bond, it's almost like buying a stock, except for in your country.
Sort of, except it's buying a stock in the GDP of your country.
See? Same thing.
So, I mean, you're close, but I was just more like fine-tuning it to a laser. This is the point. When your GDP goes up, when the GDP is going up, the value of bonds continues to go up. When the GDP is going down, however, the value of bonds tends to go down, which is a good indication of a recession. Now, because it's in everybody's interest, because the vast majority of people out there have a lot of their pensions and so on and so forth put on the stock market. It's real, and the stock market is entirely based on faith. It's literally like belief in God is based on faith. It is the
same thing with the dollar.
So when I put money into the stock market, I believe that the money that I'm going to pull out of the stock market is higher. But that's not always necessarily true. If we recession, well, then the money that I'm pulling out of the stock market is lower. That's based on faith. Well, same thing with when you buy a bond. I am buying a bond based on the faith that I believe the GDP of the country that the bond that I'm buying belongs to is going to go up over the next period of time. Like some bonds are 18 months. I've got a couple of bonds out there right now that are 2 years. They mature in 8 months or so, which is good because I want to divest from the dollar as soon as humanly possible.
I do want to also say that maybe buying bonds, U.S. Treasury bonds, is kind of like putting your money in a savings account, except for instead of relying on the bank to grow, you're relying on America to grow. Is that a good way to put it?
That's exactly how it works.
Okay.
And also, interest rates affect your savings account in the same way that interest rates affect. So,
Okay.
the interest that you receive on your savings account is based on the Federal Reserve's interest rate. So back in the 80s, when it was in the 15 to 23% range, your expected yield on your savings account was actually a lot higher than it is today, when at 4.25%.
Right. So
2.25%, one of the two.
okay, so if the bank has to pay more interest to get their loans from the Fed, fuck the Fed, then your savings account also gets more interest? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
When the bank pulls a loan from the Federal 15%, then what
We might get 2 if we're lucky.
No, at 15%, you're probably going to get 10.
Oh.
If the bank is pulling it at 23%, you are probably going to get 15.
Okay.
Interest rates are actually in your advantage
If you're saving.
if you're saving,
Yeah.
unless you're actually trying to get a loan.
Oh, now I get it. And then that's why you're saying in a time of recession, that's when you drop the interest rates.
In a time of recession, you drop the interest rate.
Okay.
So therefore, it opens up loans. More people are willing to loan more money, which allows. Remember, I know that we've had this conversation. Maybe not necessarily on
Growth. Give me a second, because I already get what you're saying. It allows for growth. It allows for growth based on debt. And like in modern monetary theory, like most of the money in the world is in the form of debt.
Absolutely. Well, not just most, all of it. I can't think of a single currency that isn't entirely based on fiat.
When's the last time you gave someone a sliver of gold for a bagel?
Yeah.
We don't have real money.
Scarcity is the only real money.
Well,
a good space to get in right now.
That reminds me, we're gonna do a show about Bitcoin at some point in the future. But should we go to the next article?
We should, but I'm gonna give one little piece of advice. If you have it, if you can, and I mean, I'm talking like $15. I'm talking anything that you can spare. If you can take as much as you can and pull it out of the dollar and put it into the gold space
or Bitcoin, I still kind of have faith in Bitcoin.
I have faith in Bitcoin, and I think it's going to be really good. But there's a possibility of regulatory concerns with Bitcoin. I'm telling you,
no, can't do that. Oh, that was a knee jerk.
Gold. Bitcoin is a gamble, and it's a much better gamble than the American dollar. Don't get me wrong.
You're saying it's the same gamble as gold?
No, gold isn't a gamble. Gold will increase in value. It has increased in value consistently for the last 7,000 years, and I can point to a chart. It has consistently increased in value for 7,000 years, period.
A little behind the scenes
I'm
here.
not saying that gold isn't a gamble. It is sort of a gamble, but it's nowhere near the gamble that Bitcoin is. Now, don't get me wrong. I've got Bitcoin. I made money on Bitcoin. Don't get me. But there is an amount of risk involved in Bitcoin that I can't say, hey, Mr. Guy that can only spare $15 per paycheck, put your money in Bitcoin. No, Mr. Guy who can only spare $15 per paycheck, put your money in gold. That money is guaranteed to hold its value, and it could possibly increase. Whereas Bitcoin is not guaranteed to hold its value.
Right, yep. Perfect analogy, yep.
I'm just looking at, I'm a believer in Bitcoin. Don't get me wrong, I'm a believer in Bitcoin. I think that it's eventually going to beat out on fiat.
Well, and that's, okay, we're going to go into this in depth on another episode, but
Absolutely.
The reasoning behind investing in Bitcoin is it's decentralized. It's not controlled by everyone. It's not controlled by a single person. It's controlled by everyone.
Exactly. And I don't see that. I mean, ideologically, I believe that that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. It's actual anarchy, if you can think.
Exactly. Ideologically, I invest in Bitcoin on ideological basis. However, if you only have $15 paycheck to spare, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm trying to protect you, put your money in gold. Your money in gold is for sure going to be, it's not going to lose value, at least.
Matt, there's no way I can pull up enough sources when we do our episodes to show it on the screen, like, hey, we know this because of this and this and this. Let's go to your next article. But seriously, the dollar is falling apart, and we've been talking about it for a minute.
It has a lot to do with Trump.
Right, I'm on your Reuters article.
Okay, so my let's move on to the Economic Times article.
Did you put it in order on our Discord?
Yeah, it's in order. We've got Reuters, and then underneath that we got two charts. We got the Economic Times. As part of CPEC, Chinese-only colony coming in Pakistan.
Getting there. Just getting past this dude's ugly face.
I know, right?
He doesn't look happy about anything.
I know.
All right, Fed cut interest rates. Oh, this is charts.
Oh, that's the. Oh, yeah. That's the charts for the Fed cut interest rates. That's two more links down. The Economic Times.
Well,
I see it as two flags: the Pakistani flag and the Chinese flag.
You only had one job. Just send me the links we're supposed to cover in order. So we're covering enterprise.press. I'm
going to send this article one more time. Because this is a big one. This is another reason why I think that you should divest from the dollar. And this is why these relate to one another in some pretty big ways.
All right. I just want to let our small but very loyal audience know that doing a podcast is not easy. CPAC? Is that where you want to go?
Yep, that's the one.
Okay, here we go. So now I got it on the screen as you talk about it.
Okay, so this is actually kind of a good development, I think. It's not good for us, but it's good for the world.
That's what I've been saying.
Well, I mean,
I know it sounds cynical, and you could be, if anyone from the right could call you anti-American, but they can also fuck right off, because if you love something, you criticize it when it's doing wrong, so you can help it be better. And that's what we said.
I personally believe that you should have the same relationship with the government that you have with your child.
That's what I was just going to say.
You praise it when it's right.
Yep.
You tell it that, you tell it what you want, and you make sure that you're fucking clear.
Because we love it.
That's it. Like, your government is a kid.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say this, but groups of people are pretty fucking stupid. They are not very intelligent at all. People themselves, you take an individual person, you cut them off from the rest of them. They're pretty smart. They've got pretty good reasoning. But large groups of people, they're pretty dumb.
Yeah.
They don't learn very quickly. So yeah, this is me having the same relationship with my government and my economy as I would have with my kid. I criticize it when it's wrong. I praise it when it's right.
That's right. There you go, you parents out there. Where do you want me to scroll in the article?
Anyway, so Pakistan and China have a really close relationship.
Okay, here we go. China Pac Investment Corporation. You got the article. Read it out. I'll follow along.
Okay, I'll just read along with it. But China is building a city for 50,000 Chinese nationals at a cost of $100.
And they typed that wrong, by the way.
What was that?
They typed that wrong.
Oh, actually, I just noticed that.
Yeah, no. Yeah, if you follow me at all on Facebook or YouTube, when I make a mistake, when it looks like I make a mistake, unless it's a misspell, it's actually quite on purpose. For example, I have never spelled Trump with a capital T, ever. Very much on purpose.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
Sorry,
I usually
sidetrack.
But that's only because it's proper. But whatever.
Yeah, fuck that. He's not our proper president. I'm not even a liberal. I'm a leftist.
Yeah. You're not a proper liberal.
Absolutely not. You want to see my penis right now?
Thanks for the offer, yo.
Alright, back to work. Mid-show joke break.
Anyway, so Pakistan is allowing China to build a Chinese city inside of Pakistan. Why is this important to you, and how does this affect your pocketbook? Okay. China, well, we've already been talking about the global reserve currency being the dollar, and why this kind of matters to you. Just so that you know, the American economy isn't really productive. All we really produce is bombs and drugs and guns. And
isn't debt a huge part of it too? You know, like,
I mean, financialization is not really productive, however. Bombs are an actual product that we sell to other countries.
Here's what I'm trying to say. We bomb a country, and then they beg us for money, and then we loan it to them at some insane, like, 20% interest rate.
You're right about that. However, that's not the only use of our bombs. A lot of our bombs are actually sold to, like, Saudi Arabia.
And then they do it for us.
Or India, for example. And then, and that's actually the only productive part of our economy. We manufacture a shit ton of bombs here. We don't manufacture cheap Chinese toys. We don't manufacture.
Okay. I see where you're going. Like, we went from
financialized economy.
Right. That's why we don't have factory jobs anymore. Like, the money driving the economy is really in the financial sector instead of the manufacturing sector, right?
Exactly. And actually, the money that's driving me is actually over in China.
Yeah.
Because they have a productive economy. They produce all kinds of shit that they sell to all sorts of people over the world. Now, their currency...
Damn evil organization for the sake of the country instead of the sake of the oligarchs. Man, how could they let that?
I don't know. I'm not so.
I know they're involved. I know there's corruption in China, but China has grown. We are talking over each other. I know that what I said was hyperbole, but China has grown like quicker than anyone in the past couple decades because of the planned economy.
Because they have a planned economy, and additionally, they are actually aiming at creating a middle class in the country.
Gee, imagine what would happen if you tried. Huh. That's amazing.
It's like the New Deal happened, and we were aiming for creating a middle class in our own country until recently.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's put the weaknesses and freaking put the comparisons aside for a second.
Oh yeah, we're talking about China.
We're talking about China and Pakistan and why this affects the dollar.
Remember, everybody, I'm sleep deprived. We already covered that at the top of the show. China? Oh yeah, China.
Breaking news. Anyway. So freaking China and Pakistan have a really close relationship, and they have for a long time. So
long time.
But Pakistan and Iran have a pretty close relationship, and they also have a long time. Now, Iran can send their oil to Pakistan through the Gulf of Oman without going overland and without going through the Strait of Hormuz, which means that we can't cut Iran off any longer as long as they're sending their oil to China through Pakistan. And China needs a lot of oil. They need all the Iranian oil. They could use all the Iranian oil plus all of the production in Russia right now. Both. They could use them both. And they can continue to use all of that production for the next 30, 40, 50 years.
All right. What is ET? This is the part where you're supposed to read the articles on your segment. We're still getting there, guys. We're getting real close.
I mean, I'm supposed to read the article and everything like that, but since you have it on screen, they're reading it, and I'm just sort of giving some perspective on it while you read it. You go ahead and read that shit, and I'm going to give some perspective.
Do it. It's your segment.
The American dollar is based on the fact that it's the only show in town.
Yeah.
If there becomes another show, say the yuan.
Wow, that's a short article.
Say the euro, for example. Any other show comes along, and our belligerentness is going to make us a lot less attractive. So China can trade with Iran using Pakistan as a proxy. And they're the largest economy in the world. You're not anymore. That's just sort of the United States is no longer the largest economy in the world. And it's not the fastest growing. In fact, it might be shrinking. We aren't talking about that objectively anymore. But the U.S. economy might actually be shrinking while the Chinese economy is growing. So they're creating partnerships with people that we won't deal with. Venezuela, Iran, Russia. Now, Venezuela is the largest oil reserve in the world. Iran has the largest developed oil reserve in the world right now. Russia is the largest energy producer in the world, except for Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia produces more energy than even we do. We're 3.
Wow.
China needs energy, and they are buying it from Iran without using the dollar. This is more evidence that, to me, the dollar is a risky investment. If you can put $15, $20, a paycheck away and grab a $15, $20 $30, it doesn't matter, and put it into the gold space right now. Because over the next 15 months, your dollar is going to lose value in comparison to gold. That is a prediction that I am willing to go on the record is to tell you. Your dollar is going to lose value over the next 5 years or so, because China is willing to deal with Pakistan or Iran using the euro.
All right,
everybody wants to use the euro, and the euro becomes the global reserve currency. Then the dollar isn't.
All right, my dude.
Dollars become less valuable.
Yeah. Yep. I think we helped even me, even though I'm wet-brained and sleep-deprived, understand this stuff better. So I think we've done a wonderful job. So
I hope so.
I hope so too. I think we should start wrapping the show.
Questions for me as a financial.
Leave them in the comments, motherfuckers.
Leave them in the fucking comments. I
like and subscribe. Yeah.
I will answer you.
So the
$2 guys.
Right.
Minimum wage workers.
Yes.
You are the guys that need to be protected the most.
Yes.
And so therefore.
There you go, doing the show just a few seconds too early again. The show is about to wrap, but the conversation will never end. Can you give your final talking points while I take a potty break?
My final talking points, sir, are
beautiful wall. Oh yeah, I just did the giveaway. Go ahead though. You do it.
I'm going to say that if you can, $10, $15, $20 a week, put that into the gold space. This situation is only going to last for 15 or but as you put your money into the gold space and gold continues, because there's been some hegemony within the gold space recently, which means that there's been a lot of very powerful players in the economy playing the gold reserves, and they've been artificially depressing gold and silver and copper and a few other commodities as well. Sooner or later, they're going to be caught with their hand in that cookie jar. And so that means when they're caught with their hand in that cookie jar, gold will blow up. It's going to begin to soar. Now, we've already seen that. It's gone up 15% in the last 30 days or so. And that's a pretty major return. That doesn't mean much on your $15 or $20 or $30 a week investment. But if you keep doing that over the course of the year, it will mean a lot over your $250. Just keep going. That's all I can say, is just keep walking that path. And sooner or later, the one commodity in the entire world that has consistently gained in value over the last 10,000 years will consistently gain in value again.
Actually, if everything does fall apart, it's gonna go backwards a little bit. And conservatives should love this. They love looking at the past. I want to show something to our audience without saying too much about it. If the economy comes crashing down, I have made an investment, and I'm not going to really speak on it. I'm just going to show it on camera. Be right back. 2 seconds. Well, 3 forward.
All I want to see your investment, brother. Another really good investment, since he was going to be 5 seconds, is physical gold. If you can go to a pawn shop and buy a ring, do it. Do it right now. If you
Right
can.
now.
Weirdo, what are you doing?
We're talking about if the economy collapses, and that's my investment if the economy collapses. And we're not saying why.
There's a pot that you put on fire outside?
That's right.
Okay. Oh.
Hey, I've got a plan for if the economy collapses. I've got a forge that I just built out back, and I'm making my own bronze.
Yeah.
If the economy collapses, I'm a blacksmith. Well, sort of a yellowsmith, but whatever.
So he's a tradesman. He has a trade that he can
Of course.
apply and sell to others for barter. So yeah, yes, he would be fine. Because
Yes,
people will always need a blacksmith.
You got a house, and yet survival skills. I'm getting less and less.
It would be a return to a normal.
Yes, that's what we're saying. That's
You
what
know
we're
what I
saying.
mean? Where people can actually rely on each other. That's, you know what I'm saying? So,
That's true anarchy.
unless, of course, you gotta remember there's a nation full of savages who, when things go bad, rather than work together, they go break into shit and start trying to steal shit. They click up into a gang mentality, and then they go out on. It'd be like that. What's that movie with Mel Gibson?
Waterworld?
No, that's the other guy. That's the other guy. That's Kevin Costner. Mel Gibson did with Tina Turner. Where everybody was fighting for water and gas and shit, rather than helping each other in that regard. You'd have to watch out for that because it'd be a two-tier society with the savages and then the civilized. So you're gonna have that problem. So you need to have guns. So as a blacksmith, you need to make some bullets. And a fucking rifle. So you protect your interests from the lawless.
Pack my own rounds, brother. And I
Yes,
put
sir.
my fist in the air listening to you speak,
Yeah.
Charles.
Yeah.
I'm loving you.
I love you too. Who is that, Bob?
Yeah.
Hey, Bobby. What's up, man? I didn't know who you were talking to. What's up, Bob? What's going on, big dog?
We're recording.
Like, for real. So seriously, that's the reality of the American.
We're almost on screen.
What?
You're almost on
I'm
screen.
fine. I'm gonna go. My ride's almost here. I gotta go to work. But that's the reality of the country we live in. You'll have some people willing to be helpful, and then you'll have some people who are like, "Oh, fuck that! I'm gonna kill everybody." They need to have their own. Yes, but that's because they want. The greed will still exist, but it'll be greed for the sake of saying, "I have it all," and then they'll want to hoard it, and then there'll be people hoarding you with weapons who will try to shoot you for coming too close to them because they'll be so scared and threatened that you'll try to take what they have. So you got to get past that too. You have to actually be able to communicate with people and be like, team effort, go team people. You know what I'm saying? Not, everyone for himself, murk, kill, that bullshit.
You mean like the way we evolved as tribes? People that can trust each other?
Yeah, but see, even the tribes, other tribes will go out and fight other tribes.
Yeah.
We're in the 21st century. That's kind of unnecessary.
One world tribe, baby.
United Cultures Tribe, remember? United Cultures Tribe. So,
My fist is in the air, brother. I just wanted to say for the record.
I love you too, Bobby. I love you too, dog. My fist is in the air right along with you, my dude. But I
That's good, brother. That's good.
Well, I wish I had time to communicate this more with you guys, but I have fortunate to have good work. Yeah.
Hey, go to work. Put $15 of what you owe, what you earn today,
Yeah.
into the gold space.
Okay. I put money away every day, though. I have money.
No, he's talking about investing in things like gold and Bitcoin.
Well, you can't go wrong in investing in gold.
Is really critical right now, Charles.
But investing in like precious metals and things of that nature.
Really, anything but the dollar. But
I'm not a fan of the dollar.
Is a good one.
I've never been a fan of dead white people on green paper, man. Never been a fan. Listen, bro, I'll see y'all later, man.
Good.
Yep.
All right, that was an epic jam. We learned a lot. We learned a lot. We had an epic ending. My head is spinning. I also only slept 2 hours last night on my lazy boy. The episode is over, but the conversation never ends.
That's such a beautiful ending, bro. I'm glad glad you remembered it because I totally forgot.
You and I will get back together for the next episode, and then
Absolutely.
I'll do it like 2 days later. All right, we're jamming. We be jamming, man. I told you I was recording, motherfucker. But everyone's included. That's a good button to hit. Thanks, everyone. We love you all.